excited that our next featured speaker is here in the house. Thank you so much. I'm going to do a little introduction to this woman, and then off we're going to go into a beautiful conversation. You know, we were just finished talking about how women supporting women, sisters supporting sisters, how that happens, how we build relationships. Catherine just knocked it out of the park about getting past that initial phase and into the relationship, right? Into the relationship, whether it's the sales relationship, the personal relationship. And I love how this works. It's kind of like, it's like a spider's web in a very cool kind of dewy, creative way. And a great friend of mine, Doug, and I were just talking one day, and me and Doug just met on social media because he saw a post and he was like, super cool. And what's going on with your son? And I'm like, yeah, my son, and he's starting a fashion thing. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm in baseball and, you know, doing this great philanthropy work. And I'm like, you got to go talk to this person. And he's like, you got to go talk to this person. And then he said, Mindy Scheier, do you know her? And I was like, no, I don't. And he's like, you guys have similar stories, right? And how many times has the lead in to either a business or business lead to personal has been like, you've got the same story, how we relate. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be the same incident. It just can be in the same vein, right? In that same web of being servant leaders in the same way. So I had a conversation. She graciously gave me some conversation time, and I was able to talk about something that was dear to me. And she was telling me her dear to her story. And I just want to say, before I talk a little bit about her, about where this woman's been featured, and I think this is powerful. We had a lot of conversation about media today, and the story that we take to media and how that can change others. And so here's a woman with an incredible story that I'm going to let her talk on that. But Mindy has been featured in Newsweek, People, USA Today, Parent Magazine, New York Times, The Washington Post, Vogue Business, NBC Today, ABC Good Morning America, The View, Access, CNBC, Forbes, and Fox News. And why has this woman hit the red carpet so many times is because before starting the Runway of Dreams, and if you don't know it, you will very soon. She started that foundation in 2014. And like many of us, it started from something personal. So yes, she had 20 years in fashion. And yes, she was a designer, but after her son, Oliver, who had muscular dystrophy, you know, dreamed of wearing jeans like everyone else, she hooked up with just this kind of person that you probably know, Tommy Hilfiger. And they made fashion history, creating the first adaptive clothing. And that is a word that you are going to hear, and you're going to hear it because of her. Like, that's a big deal. Like that, let that land, Angel says, like, mic drop. And it's the first adaptive clothing line in the market, right? So obviously, due to an overwhelming amount of requests, Mindy received at the Runway of Dreams, where she was showing this adaptive clothing, she created, and I hope I do this justice, because it's GAMUT, and I'm like, there's a lot of pronunciations to this, but I'm going to say gamut.
Perfect.
Gamut. Thank you. Management, a trailblazing consulting talent management company that represents PWD. That's something else that you guys are going to listen for. PWD, persons with disabilities, access fashion, lifestyle, and entertainment management. So she's here to talk about her journey from changing the landscape into mainstream, something so incredible. And we probably take for, advantage. I'm wearing like an eco-friendly fashion dress today, made from a t-shirt from, Woodstock. Yeah, okay. I wasn't there, but I can wear the t-shirt. And people doing incredible things, and how we feel. Like, think about how we feel when we wear fashion and how we can take that for granted, and what that feels like. And then here's an experience that she has with her own son, Oliver, about how he changed, how he felt being able to do something that we do every single day. Anyways, Mindy, thank you so much for coming on to the Stand Up, Speak Up, and Show Up. We're so grateful that you're here with us today. I'm going to let you kind of do some little introduction of yourself, say hello, and then I know we've got some questions that we felt that, and you felt would be great to share with this audience.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Deb, I think on your end, you were going to run the video.
Okay, if you want us to run that right now,
Yes,
Dorothea,
please.
are we ready to go?
Yes.
All right, so.
Runway of Dreams Foundation is a nonprofit organization that works towards a future of inclusion, acceptance, and opportunity in the fashion industry for people with disabilities. Founded on the basis that clothing is a basic human need, the foundation develops, delivers, and supports programs and events that celebrate people's differences, break down stereotypes, highlight the need for mainstream adaptive apparel, and showcase people with disabilities in fashion.
The sides of my top here have snaps, so they like open up, so it's really easy to put on.
We're always looking for ways for him to express himself, even if he couldn't do it with words, and that's something else that clothes allow him to do.
And wouldn't life be so much easier if all of my clothing was adaptive?
We love fashion, and the thing about clothes, when you look good, you feel good, and we want to feel good also.
Runway of Dreams honestly changed my life.
So it is so important to show the fashion industry and the world that people with disabilities are people first, and we have to rebrand who they are in the public eye. And no better way to do that than on a runway.
No other show has brands sharing the same runway for one mission.
JCPenney, Tommy Hilfiger, Kohl's, Zappos, Target, Stride Right.
Walking the runway was probably the best experience I've ever had. I felt so much support, and it's truly an indescribable feeling, and I'll remember it forever.
This event means that we can show off all the abilities of people living with disabilities and how special all the people that walk this earth truly are.
It gives me strength and pride to walk down that runway and show people that we want to be loved and be seen, and we are beautiful.
With your support, Runway Dreams will work to ensure that adaptive apparel will become as commonplace as petite or plus sizes, and that the over 1 billion people around the world living with a disability will be empowered with confidence, independence, and style. This is Runway of Dreams. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Deborah. This is such an honor. It's such an honor to be here with all of you. But because I don't know you all, hopefully by the end of this conversation, we will. I'm going to do what's called a visual description. In case we have anybody on the call right now that has a visual impairment. So again, I'm Mindy Scheier. I am a 51-year-old white woman with freckles, curly red hair. I'm wearing a big black hat, and I'm wearing a dress that has some black puff sleeves. And behind me, I have logos of Runway of Dreams and Gamut Management. So thank you for allowing me to do that. And also I just want to point out that also this has closed captions that I just actually double checked. So we have that capability as well. As Deb mentioned, I am a trained fashion designer. I was that little girl that dreamed of being a fashion designer, but I didn't just want to be a fashion designer. I wanted to be a global entity. I wanted to be the next Betsy Johnson. I felt like I had the hair for it and the attitude for it. And so I always knew that if there was no small thinking. So I did go on my journey. I graduated with a fashion design degree, immediately moved to New York City, and my journey began. And I was making great progress. I don't know if I was quite Betsy Johnson level, but I was definitely on a good path. And then as life would have it, I married and I had children, and my middle child, Oliver, was born with a very rare form of muscular dystrophy. His version affects his muscle strength, it distorts his body shape, and his pulmonary system. So when he was young, when he was first born, my husband and I decided that we were going to raise him exactly as our other two children and give him as many opportunities as we possibly could. And we were doing, I think, a pretty bang up job until it came time for him to go to school. And he was unable to do buttons or zippers, put on shoes, tie laces, etc. So he went into school every single day, basically wearing a uniform of sweatpants, a t-shirt, and maybe a sweatshirt, because it was the only way that we knew he'd be able to go to the bathroom on his own. He'd be able to wear his leg braces, as it was impossible to put jeans over them, and he would be able to more independently ambulate. So I guess we probably have some mothers and fathers in the audience. And generally, when you send your child to kindergarten, you don't think about things like how is he or she or they going to go to the bathroom. And these are things that we had to talk about and think about. So Oliver, when he was 8 years old, came home from school and he said, "Mom, I don't understand why everybody else gets to wear jeans except for me." And it was, I am always so brutally honest at this stage of my talk, in that it was a true kick in the stomach moment, a true failure beyond all comprehension moments, not only as a mother, but as somebody that dedicated her whole career to the fashion industry, that I needed my 8-year-old to remind me of how important clothing is to who you are as a person. And that's exactly what he was sharing with me, that just because he had a disability didn't mean that he had to dress like he had a disability, and he wanted identity, and he wanted to be able to choose what he went to school wearing. So choking back tears, I looked at him and I said, "You bet you're wearing jeans to school tomorrow. So you better go to sleep, because it's going to be a really big day tomorrow." And he went to bed, and I sat at my kitchen table and cried for a solid 3 hours about how in the world I missed this, collected myself, got a pair of jeans from his closet that and my husband and I were the only ones that would be able to dress him in it, because he wasn't able to manipulate them. And I started cutting them apart. I took out the zipper and I cut up the side seams. And close your ears if there's any other designers on this call, but I did use peel and stick Velcro. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't have a lot of energy or time or anything to make this work. So yeah, I did it. And I also used the rubber band trick. If any of you were like me and refused when you were pregnant to get rid of the jeans that you loved, and you wanted them to go up and down and all of that. So we used the rubber band trick on the button. So yes, it wasn't my greatest design moment by any stretch of the imagination. But when Oliver woke up the next day and he put on those jeans by himself for the first time in his life, and I saw an immediate transformation that came over him from a pair of jeans, it was palpable. And it truly changed my entire life, because I couldn't imagine if Oliver was so changed at 8 years old from a single pair of jeans, how in the world did our over 1 billion people on this planet who have a disability, how did they manage clothing challenges, and how are they showing up to the world, etc. So this was back in 2013-14, and I decided to take my background and have a teeny tiny little goal of changing the fashion industry to be inclusive of people with disabilities and view them as consumers and understand how profoundly important this population was. So I knew that I couldn't approach the industry without really knowing what I was talking about. And I, at that point, only had 8 years of experience, and experience with only one disability. I certainly couldn't go to the industry and say, I have this amazing idea without really proposing hard data, information, how we're doing it, etc. So I did 1 year's worth of research. I did focus groups. I went to schools and hospitals and facilities. I literally chased down people on the street that were in wheelchairs or walkers, or even if they had a limp, I was talking to them to find out if there were overlapping challenges between different disabilities and clothing challenges. So during the time of my focus groups, I always like to highlight 3 really important stories that have still profoundly affected me. One was a young man who was 18. He was in a wheelchair. He was born with a neuromuscular disease. And he spoke up during the focus group and said, I got myself into Harvard University. I am going to be a freshman on the campus of legitimately one of the greatest colleges in the United States, if not the world. And the only thing that I want to do is to be able to wear jeans that first day of school, just like all the other freshmen are going to. And when you think about it from that perspective, to be so bold and brave to say, I've done so much in my life, but this is what I really wish for. The second story was a mom of a young girl who was missing part of her left arm and hand. And she shared with me that she's never been able to buy any piece of clothing for her daughter that had long sleeves that she didn't have to tailor because she couldn't bear the look of having a sleeve dangle off of her daughter's arm. So when we broke down kind of the dollars and cents of that, she was actually paying double for a garment that other people would just immediately buy off the rack. And this was very, very common in the world of disability, that they were paying twice the amount between the actual garment and having everything tailored to make it wearable for them. And the third story I'd like to share is with a gentleman by the name of, who was a former Rutgers football player. And he was injured during a play, and he became paralyzed from the neck down, had no movement whatsoever, and he was able to maneuver in his wheelchair just by kind of blowing through a tube. So I connected with him, and he and his mom invited me to share some time during the process of getting him dressed. And to this day, almost a decade later, it is still one of the most profound things I've ever witnessed. That it took him 2.5 hours to have 2 aides and literally, it almost looked like a forklift that was built in his room that came down, scooped him up, because obviously he was a former football player, is very, very large, and moved him from side to side so that they could get him dressed. 2.5 hours I sat and watched him getting dressed, and that obviously doesn't include that it's 2.5 hours to also then undress him. So 5 hours during his day were dedicated to something that we, myself included, fully take for granted, that maybe it takes at best 5 minutes to get dressed. So having these profound witnesses and to really be able to understand people's lives outside of my own really led me to a place of understanding, there were commonalities between different disabilities and clothing challenges, and they really resided in 3 categories. The first was closures. Buttons, snaps, zippers, hook and eyes, almost across the board, both for cognitive and for physical disabilities, were a huge challenge. The second one was having the clothing be adjustable, so it fit different body shapes, or limb differences. So having sleeve lengths be adjustable, having waistbands be adjustable, having pant lengths be adjustable so that it could fit different shaped bodies. And the third was rethinking the way clothing goes on the body. Just because classically a t-shirt has gone over the head and arms go through armholes doesn't mean that's the only way that a garment can go on the body. For somebody like this amazing football player, previous football player, having the garment open in the back and it goes in arms first and it closes in the back would give time back into his life, which is something that you can't put a price on. So really focusing on these three categories allow me, with an unbelievable data and size of market and all of these things, just to kind of go into that a little bit. People with disabilities are the largest minority on our planet by far. If you think about it, every single minority that we have cross-sectionally intersects with people with disabilities. So when you add all of that together, there isn't a single minority out there that even comes close to the holistic people with disabilities. Number two, it's an estimated $13 trillion that's being left on the table by not including people with disabilities as consumers. So I think we have some white space there. I could be wrong, but I don't think anybody's turning away $13 trillion of spending money that could be going into our income. So with that data, with what I learned from that year of research, and the fact, because I felt like I needed a little psychological feedback as well, that there is actually something called enclosed cognition, which is the emotional effect that clothing has on you. So if you think about it, I put on this outfit today because I knew I was going to be in front of all of you and I wanted to feel really good. I happen to love wearing hats. So of course I put a hat on so that I felt more confident being in front of all of you. There's a reason why there's power suits. That's why they're called power suits, because you feel really good in them. There's a reason why your favorite jeans that are so worn in, maybe having a few holes in them, are your favorite pair because they make you feel so relaxed and comfortable, and how you felt the first time you put them on. These are real statistics. So with all of that, I was ready to go to the industry. Fortunately, because I spent so much time in the industry, I did have some significant contacts, and one that got me to the team at Tommy Hilfiger. So a little fun story. I had exactly 1 month to prepare for this meeting, and it was going to be the meeting of all meetings that I needed to blow their minds. So I bought 2 pieces of every single article of their collection. One set I modified with the modifications that I developed based on the information I learned, and the other I kept as is. I said I knew in my head I was going to set it all up as a showroom so that when the team at Tommy came in, they could really compare and see and blah, blah, blah. So I said to my family, I am going dark. I'm hanging up the mom little medal that I wear every day, and daddy's now in charge for the next month. I said to my husband, make sure they go to school, they do their homework, they're fed, they're bathed, we're good, you're going to be fine, see you in a month. And I just spent all of my time preparing for this meeting. We get to the meeting, the CEO comes in, we're sitting with his team, and I'm solidly 5 minutes into the meeting, and he slams his hands on the table and says, we're in. And I said, excuse me? He said, we're in. This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I cannot believe no other mainstream brand had ever done this before. And I said, I mean, I've already sweat through my clothes. I'm shaking under the table. And I said, Gary, I have been waiting for this day for a very long time, and I don't want you to mistake this as not being grateful or excited. But I haven't seen my family in 1 month. So we're going to go to the end of this meeting, And then you're going to tell me that you're in. So we made, as Deb said, fashion history in 2016. We launched with Tommy Hilfiger and developed the first ever mainstream adaptive clothing line, which is now Tommy Adaptive. Thank you. I love all of this. Thank you. But again, what that did and why it was so important to have a mainstream brand join us on this journey, as important as it gets, because then the other brand said, whoa, Tommy Hilfiger's doing this. All the other companies that said good luck but no thank you suddenly were like, "Ag, we should have done it." So the floodgates started opening, and all of these other brands started reaching out to Runway of Dreams to find out how they can get connected to people with disabilities or how they can start on the journey, et cetera, et cetera. And it became so much that it was so clear that a second company needed to be born, and that was Gamut Management. So in 2019, I launched Gamut Management as the first of its kind consulting and talent management company exclusively in the adaptive space. We only represent people with disabilities, and we only work with brands to help them navigate the space of adaptive products as well as their internal companies, because this is a very, very savvy group of people. And they want to know that if you are launching an adaptive product, you better have a disability, ERG or something like that internally. You should have a platform that you as a company are including people with disabilities as much as you are any other minority, etc. So Gamut Management really helped to become the how to Runway of Dreams who and why. And the two together have really allowed us to be able to continually work with brands to hold their hands, navigate them through the system, and or if they're already in the space, to help them with marketing and PR and really understanding the nuances of this population, because it is different. You are working with an enormous population that classically hasn't been marketed to, that hasn't had products that they even know to go look for, to understand that brands are out there really starting to go on this path. So much so that actually last May, we launched in Forbes the first of its kind certification. So the Gamut Seal of Approval was launched as a way and a mechanism for adaptive products to be able to have a symbol that shows the population that this product has been approved by the population of people with disabilities. No different than gluten-free, no different than cruelty-free, et cetera, et cetera. So we are so excited that finally we have some regulations in the adaptive space that also allows the brands that have put so much energy, time, and resources into developing this product in the most authentic way, that they now get to have a badge of honor to say, we did it right. We did it with people with disabilities by our side, and we are so proud to be able to have the Gamut Seal of Approval. This June, we are actually launching the very first product that was given the seal of approval, and that's through the brand Adidas. They are launching an adaptive backpack and socks that both will be launching with the seal of approval, followed by some other really big brands that are going to be launching this fall. So we're so excited about this journey. I'm so honored to have been able to share my story and be with all of you other amazing creators and developers and game changers. Deborah, I know that you have some questions for me, so over to you.
Well, let's just take a deep breath, shall we? Woo! Okay, Zoom love and breathe. And I noticed I was holding my breath. I was captivated, and I've heard your story. Now I hear the extension of your story. And I think the first time we talked was a couple of years ago. Yes. That's a big chunk. I love this. So So for you guys that had a tiny little goal, you know what I mean? For you, you had a tiny little goal, and we've been talking about that all day. It's like, what a incredible story of expansion. Like how one person, and you like you were saying, you're like, I just had 8 years. We were talking about that earlier about how sometimes we don't feel like we can make a big movement because we don't have enough time behind us. We haven't earned our way. We haven't earned our wings. And everybody's got their own idea about what that is. You know, I need 3 years. I need 30 years. You know, I need all of this behind. And you did it in 30 days. Like legitimately, you grabbed the reins fully in 30 days, right? I love that. And I love that you made him watch all the way to the end. Good on you. Okay, so we you know, there were some questions that we thought would be really great for you to share your answer on, because you know, it says you talked about why, or you talked about that it took the industry a while to kind of get their head around this. But why do you think it took so long for someone to shake up the industry or wake up the industry to this demographic? And I'm sure when you talk about 13 trillion, it kind of made people's wheels go, what?
It definitely helped. Yes.
Definitely helped, but why do you think it took so long?
I think there's two really big reasons. The first one is what we call the F word, and that's fear. I think that brands were so terrified about doing it wrong, of insulting, of not saying things right or making things right or doing things right, that it was so much easier just to not do it. And I think that is something that was just snowballing, that it, and that is actually something that I heard many times when I did approach brands before Tommy Hilfiger, that their reason was, if nobody has done this before, and we're already in 2014, that must mean there's a reason. We don't know the reason, but there must be a reason why nobody has ever done this before. And truly the reason is fear. And the reality is, I mean, let's all be honest with each other. I'm sure I accidentally insulted quite a few people today without even knowing it, without even meaning to, but it's the world that we live in. So to not do something because you're afraid of doing it wrong is just never the answer. So I think that's number one. Number two, I think that our world, our culture, our society had never been more ready for something like this to happen. In terms of inclusion, we have made so much progress. It's just this population is kind of the last one to join the party. So I think that the kind of the opening of the world to that people come in all different shapes, sizes, colors, and abilities, it was finally ready for something like this to be accepted.
Oh, touche. I think there's something really powerful around, you know, when the student's ready, the teacher appears, but also when the teacher's ready, the student appears, right? That's, you know, was that, because, you know, you talk about Tommy finally someone said yes. So I'm assuming that you talked to companies before. Was that your biggest challenge getting someone, or what would you say was your biggest challenge getting these companies up and going?
That was definitely one of them, that they were all holding on to the which is almost laughable at this point, that just because it's almost something that we do tell our kindergartners, that just because somebody, you know, doesn't do it, doesn't, you know, make it something that you can't do or you can dream about or think about. Actually, I'd love to have a little fun interactive game if possible. Does anybody know when the button and buttonhole was developed? You can put it in the chat or raise your hand or shout it out.
Somewhere like, was it Singer, the sewing machine, that created it, or
give a timestamp on that. Give me a date, not like a March. Okay, I got late 1800s.
Yeah, I would say that.
1955.
Well, it's interesting because as people are guessing, Michelle Baker, who is a fashion artist that's talked before you, said one of the first things that she did to help, bring money into the house was make uniforms for people. And she would cut the pattern and take it to other women's homes. And for extra money, they would make buttonholes. So interesting.
So everybody, the answer is the 13th century.
Oh,
so
wow.
The fact that we are still using technology in today's day and age, when we literally run our lives through this thing, is mind-blowing. So I think that the notion that the industry was hanging on to, if nobody's done this before, that must mean we can't do it, was without a doubt the biggest challenge that I knew I just needed one brand. And I clearly wasn't going to stop until I got that one brand on, to come on this journey with us. And it changed everything. It changed everything because I knew that the population would reveal itself. They've been desperate for something like this to happen forever. So the second that I think the day that we launched, Tommy Hilfiger was like the #1 search on Facebook by like leaps and bounds that day that we launched, because so many people were, heard about the adaptive collection.
Wow. Well, and Mindy, right now you see so many people wanting to get behind brands that are making a difference, right?
Yes.
They're making a social impact. And so for Tommy Hilfiger to come along and to be one of the first to open this up. I mean, even I'm seeing commercials for the shoes now, right? That you don't have to bend over, right? You
Correct.
just slip on those,
yes,
the shoes. So I don't think I'm not labeled like with a disability, but as I get older, I'm like, who invented the sports bra? Right? Like I can't get that thing off, like when I'm sweaty and it's all sticky and I need my husband to help me. I mean, there's certain pieces of clothing I can't get on and off by myself, even without a disability. So I am thinking adaptive clothing is really more mainstream, and it's necessary for mainstream as well. But I love that like we can't do things because we're afraid we're going to offend somebody. We can't go and make a change in the world because it might offend somebody,
or that it hasn't been done before,
or that, right? Yeah,
reason.
right. And that just because. And so it is interesting when you get corporate, right? That a lot of times that's kind of their sticking point. Well, it hasn't been done. There must be a reason. But as you're building this Gamut brand, and congratulations on having that seal of approval now be a standard for companies, what would you say is the definition? Like, where are you going next? What is your definition of success for Runway of Dreams and for Gamut Management?
Thank you. And I do just want to iterate on one thing that you said, because it's really, really important, that also the population of people with disabilities is the only minority that any single one of us could be a part of at any point in our life, whether it's just getting old. I saw somebody put in the chat about arthritis.
Yeah.
Whether you escape, injuries or surgeries or anything, most likely that is going to happen in your life. So we're all going to experience it, and all are going to want to have this product that we're working on. So thank you, Angel, for bringing that up. My big dream goals are, #1, that someday we don't have to have this conversation anymore, because it is just, I would love to put myself out of business. That would be spectacular. That we just don't even need to talk about it because it's just a part of our mainstream world. But I don't know how quickly that's going to happen. So I would say for Runway Dreams, the goal of the foundation is to continue to raise awareness to the need for adaptive products and inclusion of people with disabilities. The way that we do that is through the #1 platform in the fashion industry, and those are fashion shows. We do fashion shows during New York Fashion Weeks. And our goal is to really take this globally, which we are on the brink of doing. So hopefully next year we're going to cross the pond. But that's something we're really, really excited about expanding to. And on the gamut side, just really being able, I get questioned a lot of what my dream brand would be to be able to work with, develop adaptive products or services. And the reality is, and my answer always is, every single brand. There isn't a brand out there or a company out there that doesn't affect or touch somebody with a disability. Something else I always like to share, having Oliver as a part of my family, every decision that we make as a family is based on what is going to be easiest for Oliver. Every car I buy, every house we live in, every vacation we go on, down to every soap dispenser that is in every bathroom in this house is the one that Oliver can use. So when you think about it from that perspective, we have a lot of drive. Those that are affected, it's 1 in 4 people have a disability, but it's the 3 in 4 that are the decision makers that are making their purchases around the person with a disability. So that is really my hope, that we do get to enlighten and educate companies that inclusion of people with disabilities is not only good business, it's great business, and it's business that they didn't even know that they could get into. So that is absolutely my hope and goal.
That's a conversation, isn't it? Isn't that a conversation? It's not the 1 in 4, it's the 3 in 4. It's the one making the decisions. It's the one booking the Airbnb versus this place to this place because of this, because of that. And when you look at it, and when you talk, obviously, clearly, dollars talk, market share talks. If no one's doing it, here's what's being left on the table. What a brutal reality. And also, what a wake-up call. I mean, I'm going to say thank you, because I have never, full transparency, never gotten onto a Zoom and done presentation. And Mindy, I've stood in front of 20,000 people, and I never described what I look like. I didn't have that awareness, or to that someone could be not able to see me. Someone could not be able to see me, and to describe what I look like allows them to put something to my voice. Exactly. I think that's really, like, thank you for that. I think it's an awareness, and that's kind of the movement that happens. It's Absolutely. That movement that happens. It's a small movement, fast movement, small movement, big movement.
Exactly.
So one of the questions, like, there's a lot of women here and a lot of men here that either have a side gig, full gig, know somebody. They're the 3 to the 1 entrepreneur. They're like, I don't want to be an entrepreneur, but my wife or my sister or my brother is. God have mercy.
True.
What advice would you give to other entrepreneurs or business owners who are just starting out? Because you've got an incredible story that sounds like it went like this, and a supportive husband, and and you put your hat on, and Tommy said yes in 3 minutes. But come on, what's the advice that you got?
Well, first of all, it really more goes like this, and then like this, and then down a little bit more, and then up. So it's certainly not have been that. But my advice, and I believe that somebody actually also shared this with me, was that failure is just feedback. It's most certainly not failure. It is something that you take, you digest, you think about, okay, what's another way that I can do it then? If your eye is on the prize and you have a goal and you have a vision, just because somebody says no, or this is not for us, doesn't mean that's the end of your line. You take it, you think about it. What am I going to learn from this? I'm not going to take it as my journey's over. I'm going to take it as, maybe there's another way to do that. Or maybe the other person's wrong, which could happen. And most definitely did happen in my journey. So I think having kind of that safety net a little bit, to know and think about that, if it doesn't go the way you initially envisioned it, or you're not getting the love and support that you thought you would have, just take a minute and think about, what is another way to reach my goal? Don't ever let failure stand in the way.
Awesome. Look, I know that you have a very busy day and you've had a busy day, and we appreciate you coming on, because I know that your day had, some other things that were happening within it. What have you got coming up next? I know there's a little thing, Monique, I may be sleeping on your couch soon enough when you hear what Mindy's got going on. Okay, so I don't know if you're back in New York yet, but Mindy, 2 questions for you is, 1, how can we support you? And 2, I know you got a big party coming up. So some of us may not be able to get to the party, some can, but what do you got and how can we do it?
So, first of all, thank you again so much for having me. I'm so honored and grateful. So September 13th, we will be having our New York Fashion Week show. We are actually closing Fashion Week. We have over 60 models with all different disabilities. We have 12 mainstream brands that will be on our runway. And actually, we will be launching and in this industry, I'm going to give you a hint that I think, Angel, you're going to be really happy about the challenge of bras and whatnot. We will be launching the first adaptive, probably the largest in the adaptive space company that is going to be debuting their adaptive intimate apparel on our runway. So that will be extremely, extremely exciting. And we would love to have any and all of you. If you want to find out more information, you can go to runwayofdreams.org. If you do have somebody in your life that has a disability, or your company wants to learn more about how to get into the adaptive space, you can absolutely go to Gamut, GAMUT, management.com to find out more information. And Deborah, if I may just leave on one story, if that's okay, because I think it will really sum up everything that we've been talking about. But there was a teacher who happened to be in a wheelchair, and he was rolling up to school on a very snowy day, and the custodian was there shoveling the stairs, and the teacher said, would you do me a favor and shovel the ramp? And the custodian said, absolutely, you bet. As soon as I'm done with the stairs, that'll be my absolute next place to shovel. And the teacher looked at the custodian and said, but if you shovel the ramp first, everyone can get into school.
Touche, touche, touche. It's all about educating, right? It's all about educating. It's just making us think. I'm blown away. I'm just blown away. I'm so grateful that you came and made us aware and educated us today. And you guys, New York's not that far. New York's not that far.